in terms of Gaia-X and where we are, you've all seen this picture with the X, the data on the top, the infrastructure at the bottom, and this apple pie in the middle with the 3 pillars: the data, federation, and compliance. The idea today to squeeze into the 15 minutes is not to go through that and explain it, but to show you how we managed to concretely translate this high-level picture into a set of artifacts, a set of deliverables that are out there available. So this page is something that we call the Gaia-X framework. This page is available through our website, gaia-x.eu/framework. And on that page, you will have different information. First of all, if you don't understand and you want to have a by-the-hand guided tour, you have a button at the top, take a tour. So I will invite you to go there and click on it. You will have a simulation of how to read this matrix. And this is a matrix with the 3 pillars: compliance, federation, data exchange, and the type of deliverable that we have for every of those pillars: specification, labels, source code. So a 3x3 matrix, fairly simple and straightforward. This is still specification. And we went one step further. How do we translate a high-level concept into specification to source code that can be operationalized? Before I jump into the operationalization and the clearinghouse, a bit of vocabulary glossary. So at least if we don't agree on the same definition, you could understand what I'm going to talk about. The data space, which is the business point of view, that's where you have the rules and the governance. And the platforms, the connector, the infrastructure, where you have actually the media flowing. And those are 2 layers that work together. One without another will lead to chaos, usually. What we try to achieve with Gaia-X is to take those data spaces, data platforms, and make them interoperable. So you need to have a common governance rules to make them talk together. If one data space has a definition for legal participant which is not the same one than in another data space, then the contract will not be able, you will not be able to negotiate a contract. Or you will send the contract to the legal department. You might receive an answer, a feedback within weeks or months, depending on the length and number of contracts, and that will take time. So because the panel before was there, we need to accelerate data exchange. There is a big challenge into accelerating this first handshake negotiation part. Technically speaking, there are challenges, but we know how to solve them. The interoperability on the governance is a very interesting and exciting one. So how do we operationalize this interoperability at the compliance and the governance level? That's with the Gaia-X digital clearinghouse. I'm not going to try to pronounce the GXGCH. I don't think that some vowels are missing. In terms of how to use it, you have these pink boxes in the middle with the clearinghouse. The first thing you see is that you have several of them. And this is a very important part. There is no like a single proof of failure or SPOF and dependency. We have several clearinghouse instances, and you can use the one you want. So as a data space, as a company part of the data space, as a data platform, you can go to one of the clearinghouse and get your compliance back. The model, the next slide is the most technical slide I will present today for this session. And that's the basic issuer, holder, verifier trust model. You are an instance, you want to issue information to someone, so you are the issuer. That's the thing that we call a trust anchor in the Gaia-X vocabulary. You hand over credentials to the holder that will store that for him. And the holder will be able to go around and present that credentials to someone else, the verifier. And the link, the trust mechanism that enables the issuer and the verifier to trust each other without having a direct contact is what we call in the specification, the verifiable data registry, and that's the Gaia-X registry. Again, the implementation of the Gaia-X registry, this is not a single service that runs centrally, this is a distributed one. I need to look at the slides at the same time, and this one is flicking. So that's the model that we have. And this is the core concept of one of things in Gaia-X. The same thing that you will find, for example, in self-sovereign identity. We want to be able to give the control to the user, to the holder, to the participants. So other participants, you need to be able to choose with who you will share what. And we need to enable that in a distributed, decentralized manner, so that's the model that we used. Important part also, the Gaia-X registry. That's not the management team that decides what goes in or not, that's the working groups. So that's thanks to the work of our members joining, contributing text, merge requests, and so on, to the specification that we are able to translate again PDFs to source code to rules. So the Gaia-X registry is really governed by the rules set by the body of the association, and the body of the association, that's you, that's our members. In the last release of the architecture, we have the very conceptual description of the self-description workflow. I see some heads like falling on the side. Don't worry, I'm not going to go that one. The idea is exactly the opposite, in fact. We said, okay, that's fine. That's the very theoretical model. We need to go and ease that flow. So the first thing we said is, we are not going to talk about self-description anymore, or we are going to use the proper wording. So it's a Gaia-X compliant credentials workflow. And the workflow, we start with a simple UI. You have a wizard. Under the hood, the wizard will call the same services, the notary, the compliance, the registry, the same registry we saw earlier. At the end of that wizard, you will get your credentials as the holder that you can store in your wallet, in your participe agent, and you will be able to present that to a catalog. Still a bit complex? Well, we package all the thing that is in the pink circles and say, we are going to call that the clearinghouse. So as a user, you want to get Gaia-X compliance, you go to the wizard, you enter your details, your credentials, your description of your services, and you get back with stamped proof. This clearinghouse will evolve. This is just the first version. One of the evolution, for example, might be to say that we will host a wallet as a service, or we will host a data exchange as a service, part of the clearinghouse. There are many possibilities. And also in terms of deployment, right now we have a few selected partners. We want to open that to a much broader audience. So we want to move from a system which is, the first one, the single instance, was launched in June 2022. So that's already almost a year old, the first POC, I will say, that was for the hackathon. So thanks again for the members involved in the hackathon. That's really important to get this early feedback. Thanks to the hackathon, we were able to improve the specification, improve the implementation, up to a model that we call now the license. So there is no money involved. That's just that we grant the rights to several instances, and we will move to a more and more distributed to decentralized model. The last light blue bubbles is for like years later. We are not there yet. The fully decentralized model is not ready. But we will quickly move to the private secure model, and that's something I will explain more in detail with a bit of technical jargon this afternoon in the breakout session. And in terms of feature, so the deployment model will evolve, and in terms of feature, we will also increase the number of services that you will have inside. The deployment scenario and how it will evolve has been described in an article that was published in September last year. And you can find this article also on Gaia-X.eu website. There is a specific page on our website also that explains the what, how, why of the clearinghouse. So as to summarize the presentation, the clearinghouse, that's the way where you can easily get your Gaia-X compliant. That's your go-to place. Without any intent to create a spoof or locking, that's really not the intent. We want to distribute, we want to make sure that we have as many clearinghouses as possible, and but most of all, make it easy to use. Too many times we receive the feedback that, yeah, maybe nice, too complex. So we work hard on making sure that this is digestible and it can be adopted. My last slide, and I think I'm in time for catching up a bit the delay. We have a TechX event in Bilbao, 3rd and 4th of May, where we'll talk more into details about the technical details of how it works and what we have next in our roadmap. So I will invite everyone to join me in that event. No suits allowed. Thank you very much.